Welcome to the UFO Woman Show. I'm your host, Melisa Kennedy, and after months of being gone because of the pandemic, I have to say it is great to be back in the studio, and I am here with my two good friends and co-authors, Kevin Briggs and Edgar Yohe, and this is going to be a great show, guys, because we're going to be talking about not only our new book that we just released called Tap into Universal Energy, but we're going to be talking about some current events that is going on in the UFO community and the paranormal community, and we're going to kind of start bringing this full circle, starting with this show today, and I couldn't be happier to be back here, guys, especially with the two of you, and what we've got planned for the weeks to come I think is going to be exciting, and I think starting with this book is a good way to kind of start that journey together. Let me talk a little bit about these two guys. Kevin, you've seen on the show several times. He's an experiencer. He's also an author of Spiritual Consciousness, A Personal Journey, which I've featured on my show several times. But he's an experiencer. He's got lots of knowledge about the UFO community and ETs. And then my other co-author here, Edgar Yohe, he's also an experiencer and an author. And I think the three of us make quite a good team. What do you guys think?
We certainly do. We certainly do.
Yeah, we really do. We, we're all good friends, and now we're embarking on this journey together through this book. And this is actually going to be the first book in our series, Tap into Universal Energy. It's an introduction. It's a short read. It talks about everything kind of in an elementary level. Because I felt like this would be a really good start for those of you that maybe don't know about universal consciousness, quantum physics, quantum entanglement, remote viewing. We dive into all of that in this introductory book of the series, and the next couple of books after this is going to dive into it even in more depth. It is available online through Amazon, and it's also on our website, bmkpublishingusa.com. And if you put in the code WeBeamTV, you're going to get an autographed signed copy by all three of us. So that's a good advantage to order it through the BMK Publishing USA website, because you'll have our three autographs. So I tell you what. Let's dive into basically the main contents of this book, what our objective is, what we have kind of brought forth to the light in this book. We talk about cosmic energy, how to raise our vibrational level, and there's a lot of modalities that we can do that, right? We can do it through crystals, we can do it through meditation. You do remote viewing, Kevin, and we talk about that in there. And then, Edgar, you actually tapped into some other theories like black hole theory. You talked about your own experience that you've had with UFOs. And together, we've just kind of blended our three experiences and our knowledge base into one introductory book. So, Kevin, I'm going to start with you because I've had you on the show before, and you've shared with us your experiences with ETs and your remote viewing. Tell our audience about the book and how you tapped into an introductory level of remote viewing and how it's going to relate to raising our energy and our consciousness.
Okay, well, I'd like to thank you for inviting me back here.
Oh, my pleasure.
I do enjoy it. Now, I'm very pleased and honoured when you said you were writing a book and you wanted me to be a contributor, so I'm very pleased about that. So,
sure.
It's an excellent book. It's really a book for beginners, I think, who are interested in consciousness, interested how it's connected to our ETs, interested how it's connected to our spirituality, and interested in how we can access that consciousness and use it. I've been taught by the ETs from the age of 8, and the main thread of my education with them is one of consciousness. And they tell me that consciousness can be used for communication, it can be used for travel, and it can be used for creation itself. And I have the abilities that they've enabled in me, and I think we all have these abilities. I'm able to use consciousness to communicate with the ETs. I'm able to use consciousness to communicate with deceased family members. And we all have these abilities. And then I have the ability to travel outside of my body. I'll separate my consciousness from my physical and go and travel. And then the third one is creation itself, using thought and consciousness. Thought is an energy, consciousness is an energy. If you combine the two, you can create whatever you would like to create. And I have experiences of that. But again, I've been guided, I've been taught how to do this. So this is a simplistic book introducing consciousness in relation to not only the UFOs, the ETs, spirituality, but some quantum mechanics in there, which, again, I'm not a scientist, but they've given me a rudimentary understanding of quantum mechanics. But that helps me explain consciousness itself, because I know where it is, how it works, and how it works practically with the communication, travel, and creation. So this is a great book for people who know nothing about the subject, or know a little bit, and want to learn a bit more.
Yes, yes, and I agree, and I think that's probably our biggest objective in this book, is to give the reader an introduction to all of these new concepts that, let's face it, we haven't been taught most of this. Our society, our education system really doesn't go into universal consciousness, universal thought, and you know, one of the things that I have seen over and over is the power of thought. You know, that's so important, and we don't realize as human beings how powerful thought really can be. We can manifest anything we want. So what you think, what you hear, what you see actually impacts our consciousness on a universal level. So if collectively, if the three of us were to have a really powerful, you know, meditation session together, or if we were to try to make contact through, you know, the ETs, if we wanted to do a CE5 event, let's say, that collective consciousness, that will to bring ET contact or to make awareness with the conscious, universal consciousness, it's powerful. And we really need to tap into that. I mean, I don't think we realize as human beings, we maybe don't realize how powerful we can be.
No, I'm sure we don't. And I've been using consciousness itself only because I was taught how to do this through the ETs, my higher conscious beings, the extraterrestrial families, the star families, whatever name you like to put on them. But yet, so I have these abilities. I think I related a story where I manifested my wallet that I'd lost a few weeks prior and manifested it back using thought and consciousness. I don't think it's in that particular book, but it may be in a future book. But yeah, we have all these abilities, and if we get together collectively and especially with our scientists, a bit like Edgar, he's got knowledge of quantum mechanics, very practical in the science fields.
Right.
And we need to bring the two together now.
Absolutely, absolutely. So Edgar, that brings me to you. So, you know, you have an engineering background, you have a UFO experience. You're bringing a whole different side to the book, and that is more from kind of a quantum physics side, a scientific side. Explain to our audience exactly where your theories are in place as far as quantum entanglement and how we can tap into our universal consciousness using some of the quantum theories.
Well, everything is energy. Everything vibrates. And I asked, on my experience, I asked the intergalactics, is frequency all there is? And they said, yes, that is the key to the entire cosmos. We are pure energy. And if we can, and when we tap in to our energies and our consciousness, there is no limit as to what we can do or where we can go.
Okay, so when we talk about frequency, we're talking about sound? Or are we talking about, I know what it means, but I want our readers to understand. When we talk about frequency, what exactly are we talking about?
Well, we're talking about vibrational energies, because everything has a frequency to it, even down to the subatomic particles. They all vibrate at a specific rate, have their own musical notes, so to speak. When we tap into that energy, there is no limit as to where we can go or where we can be.
Okay, so as the audience is watching this, we're probably having some questions come through their mind about what exactly are we thinking here? Well, we're all on the third dimension, right? This is when we start talking about dimensions, parallels, things like that. We know that we exist on the third dimension. So when we start talking about raising our frequency, okay, raising our vibrational level, what we're really talking about is raising ourselves to a higher dimension. Right now we exist on the third dimension, that we know.
That's
but we
correct.
also know that there's 12 dimensions.
There's 12 dimensions and 144 parallels, because you take the 12 dimensions and multiply it times itself, it comes out to 144. 144 is all there is in elements as well across the cosmos. We have element 116, and they I believe, in theory, they have come up a little bit above that 116 isotope. And so by raising our energy levels, we can see across the parallels that interconnect the dimensions.
Okay. So when we talk about intergalactics or ETs, extraterrestrials, whichever name we want to call them, they actually travel through these different dimensions. And this is where it ties into universal consciousness, UFOs, ETs. This is all intertwined into one huge circle. And the intergalactics are able to travel from the different dimensions seamlessly. Is that correct,
Yeah,
Kevin?
that's
Would you
correct.
agree with that?
Yes, without a doubt. And I agree exactly what Edgar says. It's quite interesting from Edgar's scientific point of view. When he talks about it, I understand it from the spiritual point of view.
Right.
And he's been taught this from his own downloads and channeling. And I've been taught it through a spiritual side. And I agree in relation to the different dimensions. They are a vibrational frequency. And I'm able to travel to a higher vibrational frequency where all my deceased family live. And they've all passed away from the physical, but their conscious energy still is there. And I am able to raise my vibrational frequency, separate my consciousness, rise up to that level and go and interact with them, which I did when I was 16, 17, 18 for a couple of years on a regular basis. And I know that, and then I stopped doing that for other reasons, and then, but I know that they're still there if I want to meet with them. So this, when my physical dies, I'll go back up to those higher vibrational frequencies and interact with them.
So do you have any idea as to what dimension you're actually traveling to when you do that? Are you on the fourth dimension, fifth dimension? Do you know?
I didn't get any concept of which dimension I was
Okay.
in, but I realized it was a higher dimension. And what was
Okay.
interesting with that particular experiences was when I saw them, they portrayed to me a physical appearance for about first 15 in the line. And then the second 15 were just showing a pure conscious energy orb, which is orangey yellow in colour, probably 4 to 6 inches vibrating. They still communicated with me telepathically, using consciousness obviously, but then they showed me an image of their last incarnation.
Wow.
So, and I did that for a couple of years, and I was taught how to do that by Ort, one of my ET guides. And then
And you talk about that in both of the books, Ort and D.
Oh yes, I do. Yes,
Your
I talk
ET
about all
guides.
I think the group of 8 ETs that I've had contact with all my life. But yeah, they show me that. So it opens up your aspect of consciousness and who we really are as a species, a human
Right.
species. We're part of a galactic species, and we need to raise
Our galactic family.
our galactic family, our star families.
Yes.
And we need to raise our vibrational frequencies to understand that. And I'll say, because our scientists, I know Edgar understands it because he understands the scientific side, but he's also a spiritual man as well, so he understands both sides of it. So we need to bring the scientists and the spiritualists together to raise our vibrational frequencies. And I have found that the more people that you forming groups that have those higher conscious frequencies, then it raises the whole group's frequency.
The whole group goes up.
And I think-
It's the same in education. When we gather like-minded individuals together that have similar educational backgrounds, guess what? We just raise the bar for everybody. And that is such an important point to make, because I know the three of us, although we're really good friends and we work together, our frequencies are very high. I mean, I know they're raising, I know in the last 3 or 4 months, mine's just gone through the roof, and I'm actually tapping into quite a few new modalities that I didn't know I had before. I've had quite a few, psychic and experiences and stuff over the last few months. And as we start to raise our vibrational level to a higher one, we become awakened to our higher self. And therefore, we tap into more of that universal knowledge that, we just haven't been taught. We've been controlled in the way that we are limited in what we know about this subject matter.
I would agree, and I think that it's programmed in our DNA. And once you get that key and open the door, then it activates the DNA, and then you continue to grow throughout. I have a friend of mine who was a skeptic all his life, and I remember it was a couple of years ago probably now, he was over on vacation, and we were sat on my rear porch over the pool there, and there was his wife and my wife, and I went to the fridge to go and get a couple of beers. I came back with the 2 beers. Whilst I was picking up the beers, I said to my ET guide, now will be a good time to show him a craft. So I went back onto the pool deck. We all 4 sat there, put the bottles down, sat down, and as I did that, a craft appeared. And it went like that, like that, like that, like that, and then straight up. And he went. He was absolutely, but that was the key to his door. After that, he was absolutely gobsmacked. And then he said, did you see that? And we all saw it. Me and Sandy see them regular. His wife is spiritual, but he's a total skeptic about ETs, UFOs, spirituality, consciousness, everything. Now, since then, because the key has opened the door, he took a photograph of a large full moon at my home when he was on vacation again, and on the photograph there were 5 beautiful big orbs, and I think they had faces in them. I can't remember now, but so and then another experience, he had an out-of-body experience at my house as well. So he's now got 3 experiences, and he was moving up quite quickly there. Now he's interested. Now we talk about UFOs. Now we talk about ETs. He's got questions now, and he sends me things that he finds interesting, and we now have a discussion on it. And it was just that one incident of seeing a UFO that opened the door for him. So yeah, so
wow.
And we all have that.
Oh, and I agree. I mean, sometimes seeing is believing. I mean, there's a such thing as called taking a leap of faith, which a lot of people do with their religious beliefs and things like that. But I tell you what, when you actually experience it and see it for yourself firsthand, whether it is telepathically or visibly with your eyes or even audio, and I've done all 3. I'm here to tell you, you can't go back. You can't unknow what you know now. No. I mean, I see where I am today versus where I was 5-6 years ago. Yes, I had, I was there for the Phoenix Lights back in 1997. I did see that with my own eyes. That was amazing. But since then, I've had numerous experiences, and then sharing my experiences with you all and just, all of our community and talking with everybody, you just realize that, wow, there's so much more to this universe that we don't know, we haven't been taught, or we've been kept in the dark about it. And, it's time for us to come out and really start to bring forth this knowledge and get this word out, because we're the only ones that's going to do it. And that's what I love about WeBeam TV. It's what I love about this show is this is bringing forth knowledge. It's bringing forth experience. And maybe people will start to come out of the woodwork that's been scared to share their experiences. Seeing the 3 of us on this show, maybe it'll be like, you know what? Those people aren't crazy. I was a school teacher. You've been a police officer, and you're an engineer. Retired Air Force as well. I'm just saying, the credibility is here, and it's not just 3 of us. There's a lot of people like us.
Since I've been speaking out, it's only been a couple of years, and it was only because Orton D. One night I went to the bathroom in the middle of the night. I came back, and there was a bright light outside the bedroom window. The light came in through the window, lit up the bedroom like a myriad of butterflies, but it was just pure white light energy. And then Orton D. materialised. I'm used to seeing them. So I asked them what the reason for the visit was, and they said, we want you to talk about your interactions with us, your lifelong interactions, and we want you to write about it. In fact, they did say you will write 2 books, Kevin.
You will write 2 books. Well, here we go.
So there we are. We've got the 2 books.
Yes.
So we fulfil that bit.
Yes.
And all they want me to do now is continue to talk about my interactions with them. And but if they hadn't have materialised then, I would never have spoken about it. I was just who I am. It's part of me. They're part of me. And I wouldn't have spoken at all. But now I do. I find people like myself. I had one 60-year-old man contact me and said, I've had very similar experiences to you all my life, and I've told nobody. And I've had several
People are
do that.
embarrassed. They don't know. They're
Yes,
afraid they're going to be ridiculed. And, you know, Edgar, I know that that's something that you and I have talked about on numerous occasions, is providing an outlet, you know, through my show, through various other modalities, an outlet for people to share that's safe. They're not going to be ridiculed. They're not going to be embarrassed. And that's something that, you know, you and I are pretty proactive on. Your experience happened when?
4th of June 2015 at 07:05 in the morning. And I watched it till 07:20 in the morning. And it was profound because what I saw, I had to convince myself that it was not an illusion. And once I got beyond the illusion or the thoughts of illusion, then everything became very real and they were able to communicate with me. And the one thing that they told me straight out was, as long as you're not allowing the skepticism to cloud the reality, then you will learn. Once the doors are opened, there is no going back through the other way, because now you have become enlightened. And frequency, as we all know, exists across all levels of space-time. We are made up of 99.9999% space. What keeps us from walking through walls, doors, and tables and such is our vibrational levels. As your vibrational level drops, it's like water. You have water vapor, then you have water, and then you have, when you get it cold enough, it becomes ice or a solid. Well, can you walk through the solid? No, you can stand on it. So you can actually walk on water if it's frozen. As it turns into liquid, now the vibrational levels of the water molecules have become such that now we can drink it. We can bathe in it, we can swim in it, whatever. Then, as you heat it up even further, now it becomes water vapor. So now you can walk straight through it with no effort whatsoever. We are no different. As we raise our vibrational levels up, now we can be able to do what those of that has crossed over can do. We can walk through walls because time-space is no longer solid. And that's what the energy levels are. So as we raise our vibrational levels up, now we become more fluid to the universe, and the universe becomes more fluid to us. Hence is where you start getting into the parallels and dimensions.
And that's just so fascinating to me. As you know, we've spent many hours talking about parallels and dimensions, and it's just, in some ways it's foreign to most of us because we haven't been taught anything about this. Yeah, we've seen some paranormal shows and some movies and stuff like that, but let's face it, a lot of that's Hollywoodized. But basically, I mean, what we're talking about is being able to raise our vibrational level so that we can raise to that next dimension, and we become more fluid, not only here on Earth, but across the cosmos. I mean, that's what we're talking about with the intergalactics, interdimensionals. Some people call them spirits, ghosts, whatever label you want to put on them. It's all the same thing. And this is why they are able to travel the way that they do. From planet, to galaxy, interdimensions. I mean, it's fascinating stuff.
Yeah, I think the way Edgar explained that there was absolutely fascinating. And I'm nodding and thinking, yes, 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 that's been explained to me. Not about the water. I think that's a great analogy. But I actually asked Orton D, how do they take people through walls? And they said that they raise the vibrational frequency of the body to the frequency of the wall, and they just pass through one another.
So they match the frequency.
Match the frequency, and that's exactly what you gave the analogy of. Again, that's where the science comes into it.
Right.
The experience that I've been given, or the knowledge that I was given by the ETs. I think that was in one of the channels I did, and That was a question that was asked. But again, Edgar speaks about it from a scientific point of view, and it just fits in nicely with what I've been told. So
Right.
it's fascinating.
Well, the three of us, our career paths are completely different. I mean, you were a police officer, I've been a school teacher, and he's been Air Force and engineering. So we have three completely different backgrounds, different viewpoints, but together I think we work because we complement each other. And then where, I have voids, you fill that in, or Edgar fills it in, and vice versa. And it's just, that's the whole point of the show, the point of the books, is to bring this into an elementary level. So no matter what your background or your educational experiences are, you can actually pick these up, read about it, understand it, and then we're going to take you step by step with this entire book series and explain more in depth as to this quantum physics and the remote viewing and the vibrational levels, because it's so many tiers of understanding. If we threw it all into one book, which is what so many of them have done, it's just overwhelming. For somebody that doesn't know anything about this topic, it's a lot. I mean, it's science. It's some of it's pseudoscience. I mean, it's a combination of a lot of things, and it's a lot of vocabulary and things like that that's just foreign to most people. Now, Edgar, I'm going to bring it back to you because your explanation of quantum entanglement and quantum physics, if you can get me to understand that, and I have no science background other than just an elementary school teacher level, I love how you explain it because it's just kind of like the water thing. Explain to our audience, when we talk about quantum entanglement, what exactly are we talking about when we can connect to one another's consciousness, this universal consciousness through quantum entanglement?
Well, the way that they explained it to me is that they use ESP, telekinesis, and telepathy all at the same time, and their spaceships are also living beings, because they can also change shape at the speed of thought. So in order to go across great expanses of space, as we would classify it as, they can be here in several hours, and they could be a couple hundred light years away. And so their journey is a lot quicker than what we have for rocketry in our society. So as they change their vibrational frequency, it's like tuning a radio or a TV with the old tuners where you had to manually tune in your station. All they do is change the resonance. As they change resonance of their vibration, they tune in to a new wavelength. And it's those wavelengths that they're able to combine in order to travel across the great expanses of space.
Wow. And that's just such a great visible concept, because most of us have grown up with the old TVs. Now, if you're out there and you're in your 20s or something, maybe you don't know what we're talking about. But the radio dials. I mean, I remember going to my mama and papa's house, and you would have to tune your radio dial, or even the TV. You'd actually have to get up out of your seat and go change the TV channel. And that's what you're talking about. You're talking about literally something that simple, and that's the entire universe.
That's the entire universe.
It's just like microphone drop. Bam. That's what we're talking about. That's so simple and elementary, but yet a lot of what the scientific world and things like that, they kind of muck it up a little bit and make it so complex that the average Joe can't understand what they're saying. And I think that's what we're trying to do here. The Three Musketeers. we're like this team of trying to get this information out there so that everybody can be awakened to this knowledge and therefore take steps needed to raise our vibration. Let's talk a second about, I'm going to go down the rabbit hole just 1 second. I have to. I'm sorry. I can't help myself. Let's talk about the pandemic. Let's talk about what's going on in the world right now and how it is affecting our consciousness, how it's affecting our society, how one thing changed everything in just a matter of moments. That is what we can do by raising our universal consciousness. It could
Yes.
literally take effect that quickly. Would you guys agree with me on that?
I would, yes. I think the positive side of this virus is that for the first time in our history, human history, globally, we've come together as one consciousness, as a species that is threatened by a virus.
Right.
Okay, I believe the virus is real. There are many theories and things. I understand we are in the middle of a pandemic and we can do things to protect ourselves. But yes, the positive side is we came together in a very short period of time.
Yes, exactly.
As a global species, raising our vibrational frequency, again, as I say, over a very small virus. One of the
Right.
smallest things on our planet has changed our conscious level of understanding of things.
Oh yeah,
Brought
entire
us
concept.
together.
Right.
I
No
was-
matter what state you're from or
I
country
was
you're
in
from.
the post office only yesterday, and there's a line of people all spaced out.
The
and
6 feet apart. Yeah.
we started talking about what was going on in our world, about the pandemic. Normally, you just stand there and wait and barely
nobody
pass it.
talks.
But it brought us together because we had a common topic to talk about.
Right.
And that common topic expands to human consciousness as well. Really.
Absolutely. And
So-
that was the point I wanted to make.
Oh, okay.
You know,
Oh.
in relation to the pandemic is, hey guys, we have literally just experienced a global event that happened very quickly.
Now, if we can do that with a virus, can we not
Right.
do that with the ETs, with our star families? Once people accept that they are here and part of us and amongst us, and we can communicate using consciousness and in the physical, if they choose to lower the vibrational frequencies or decloak and show themselves, then once we know, a bit like my friend, total skeptic all his life, he gets one incident and it opens up that consciousness, really.
Changed his whole life.
Changed his whole life. So now, and the virus itself, the pandemic, has changed all our lives. We've
Oh,
all
absolutely.
been affected by it.
Yep.
Unfortunately, there's so many that have died, but we will continue on as a species, and hopefully we'll grow and learn from this. And then, and now would be a good time for the ETs to actually reveal themselves, because
Well, that's what I'm thinking. I've seen some memes on social media here lately that talks about, oh, what's next? UFOs are going to land. Well,
I've seen.
I'm just
I've
saying.
seen that. But
It
have
could.
you noticed? I've noticed recently. I know when I was speaking to Orton D after February, when I've been up to New York, and they said they were going to continue showing more and more mass sightings globally.
Okay.
Leading up to the reveal. The reveal is them revealing themselves to us globally, really, I think. But they said these mass sightings will be globally. And just this last week, there was one in Miami.
Yes.
And it was actually on Fox mainstream media news.
I
They
saw that.
discussed it.
They discussed
And
the
it showed
sighting in Miami.
Absolutely amazing. Well, I've seen that type of craft, and I know why it's that shape, and I know why it glows like that, because those particular engines activate the electrons in our atmosphere, and it makes it glow.
Oh,
They-
okay.
they
So
told
that's
me-
kind of what you were talking about, Edgar,
Okay, they
too.
told me that because I asked them. Because on one occasion when they gave me a download about the quantum unified field theory, which Edgar will know all about, and I asked them, is this my imagination? I need some confirmation on this. You just downloaded all this information about the quantum unified field theory, and I know nothing about it, so I need some confirmation. Can you show me a craft? And the craft appeared immediately. So then I went inside to get my wife. I said, Sandy, come out quick, there's a craft. I'm hoping it's still there. We went outside. A second one appeared, a third one, a fourth, fifth, 7 in total.
Oh, my gosh.
Just looked like the ones in Miami, exactly like that.
Oh, really?
And they flew silently over our heads, not very high, about 1,000 feet probably, then moved off at about an 80-degree angle and disappeared sequentially as they had appeared. So I've seen that particular image myself. And the one in Miami, I think it's one center one, which is a large one, and either 5 or 6 around the edge, and they all moved off in different
off.
But that also was seen in Texas and Mexico as well.
Wow.
So they are
Just recently?
Just recently, yes.
Okay.
So they are fulfilling those what they said to me, and they are
Wow.
contacting more individuals, or probably asking people like me to speak out. I saw another guy on a YouTube somewhere the other day, and he, a bit younger than me, but he'd never spoken out about it. and he was on a TV show, and he was speaking out about it. And the host of that TV show had no idea, I don't think. He was absolutely amazed by all these experiences this guy's had. And I'm sure he's one of these, like myself, who's been asked to speak out. And when you get 1, 2, 3, 4, 10,000 maybe, all with the same experiences, then it gives some credibility to it.
Right, and we start to change the paradigm. I
Yes.
mean, you know, up until now, it's been taboo. It's been, oh my gosh, don't you dare. Edgar's laughing. I mean, you know, don't you dare talk about UFOs. You're crazy. You know, I mean, so many times in the past, you know, you had the visions of the guys with the aluminum foil hats and, you know, all these images from the 50s that's just hokey, you know, and it's not, and it doesn't need to be, and it really needs to be brought forth in a positive, educational, and like you said, credible point. And I think that's what we're trying to do here. And you know, Edgar, with your experience in the Air Force and your own personal experience with UFOs, when Kevin's talking here about the Miami sighting and all that, what are you thinking when you hear stuff like that? What are your thoughts?
Well, what they found was the majority of the sightings follow our ley lines on the global energy grid. And when you have two ley lines cross, it becomes an energy node. And they zero in on certain energy nodes depending upon what the geology is of the planet. And that's why we see so many in one area but not so many in another areas, because of the ley lines and the energy nodes, as well as what the geology is. So that's how they're navigating the whole planet, and they've already got the whole planet mapped out. And this was what the nuclear scientists and stuff didn't want to be released to the masses. And Bruce Cathy wrote 3 books on that subject, and one of them was The Harmonic Conquest of Space. And in that particular book, he talks about different locations of planet Earth and what is located there, as well as the mass sightings and stuff that can be attributed to those areas.
So the ley lines, when we're talking about ley lines, we're talking about the longitude, latitude, energy grids, such as like Giza, a lot of the pyramids. I know I've read and seen lots of things about that. Is that what we're referring to?
Yes, it's similar to that. The 37th parallel has the most sightings in the United States.
And why is that exactly?
It's got to do with how the Earth's energy fields all interact.
Okay, so they're increased at the 37th. Is that what you're saying?
It's basically their superhighway.
Superhighway, cool, huh? Usually we, yeah. Well, that's a good visual. Okay, I can see that superhighway. So the ETs are coming. They're using our energy grids. They're using portals of different kinds. What about black holes? I know in our book here you had a wonderful explanation of your black hole theory. You want to get into that for a minute?
Well, black holes can only gobble up with so much space before it gets too overly massive. As you start packing molecule after molecule, and you can only get but so big. This is where I believe where they came up with the Big Bang theory, because as you start gobbling up space and matter, for every action there's an opposite and equal reaction, which is mentioned by Newton's third law, and it applies to everything. It doesn't matter what it is. So as you start packing all these molecules and keep taking the space out of them, eventually you're going to create enough heat to where it will explode back into a new galaxy and a new star system.
Oh, wow. Okay. That's I don't know about you, Kevin, but my mind just went.
Well, my mind just fell. I haven't heard that before. That's obviously new to me. But again, it does make sense.
It makes sense.
You know, if
I
you've got
love
all that
that.
matter and energy going into a hole somewhere.
Right.
Our current understanding, we think it just disappears. I don't know, it gets ejected out of the back or what. I'm not a scientist, but yeah, that's fascinating. It would make sense as it gets smaller and smaller and smaller. It get hotter and hotter and hotter and hotter, and then it would just explode.
Yeah.
And that may be the way. I say I'm not a scientist, so I can't discuss it on a scientific level. But,
Yeah.
but
It's an
very
interesting
yeah.
concept. So.
I know one thing that Edgar did say that resonated with me was he said about the ET beings having conscious craft and using thought to travel and thought to create a craft. Well, I have an experience of that, so I understand exactly what he's saying. I was travelling on the astral plane once, out of body of pure conscious energy. Orton D came alongside in a craft and invited me on board. I went on board through the craft skin, and it was actually conscious, just like Edgar said.
The craft
The
itself
craft
is
itself
conscious.
was conscious energy.
Ah.
And inside the craft there were two orbs, conscious energy orbs. Again, I always describe them as orangey yellow in colour, 46 inches across, although you've no size and thing in dimension, but I don't know I get 46 inches, and slightly vibrating, and that's Orton D. And I asked them on that occasion, I said, I see you, we had interactions and speech and things, and we were talking about other things. And then I said, I see you as pure conscious energy orbs. He said, yes. I said, how do you see me? He said, oh, we see you as a pure conscious energy orb. I said, well, let me see if I understand this then. Here we are, two different species of beings, you from the fifth dimension, me from the third dimension, travelling on the astral plane in a conscious craft. He said, yes, that's correct. You've got a correct understanding of it. So
Wow.
that explains what Edgar said
Right.
in relation to the theories that he's been given. I have a practical aspect of that. And I've got even more that can expand on that maybe at another time. But it's interesting that Edgar, from his scientific point of view, is being given this information that he understands, and I'm being given it from a spiritual side, which I understand, but the two are connected. It's just amazing, really.
Absolutely. So Orton D's from the fifth dimension, huh?
Fifth dimensional, they say they are Arcturian from Andromeda, and I'm part of their extended family, but I'm here in the third dimension.
Right.
So
Wow.
that would show that we are really multi-dimensional beings.
Mm-hmm.
We're not aware of that. I can go and visit them if I want to. And,
Take me. I want to go. I want to go to the fifth
I think
dimension.
like Edgar, we have, I think Edgar, I think I mentioned in the book that about a near-death experience that he had.
Yes.
And that was fascinating.
Yes. Well, let's see, Edgar, you've had 7 near-death experiences.
Yep.
How is that? Wow. I mean, is 7 your lucky number or or unlucky number? I'm not sure how you could look at that.
Well, when I had my heart rate was 0 on diastolic, systolic, I had 15 when they hit me with atropine. And my spirit guides and angels on the other side said, it's not your time yet, you've got much work to do, you have to go back and stay. And I went out of this worldly mess that we're in, and they said, no, you got work to do, you have to stay, and you have to get the word out. Little did I know that in 2015, just how profound that was actually going to be. When I had the experience south of Mulberry at 7:05 in the morning, when I watched the intergalactic craft, of which I only saw a little tiny bit sticking out of a cloud, and then I saw the whole entire thing. It looked like a Goodyear blimp or a dirigible. And so they told me that I had to get the word out, that our governments of the world that are industrialized have been holding their own hostage, prisoner, and slave. And to get the word out, because the beings are not our slaves. We're coming here to help save this planet from its destruction of the greed and the just plain flat greed.
Yeah.
And so, and it's all about control. So that's why they don't want the words out. They want to try to keep everything hush-hush.
Right, right.
So consequently, now we're now in that paradigm where more and more people are becoming awakened and are seeing craft, and it's unmistakable. It's not their imagination. And so this is where the quandary begins, with the human race elevating itself in a higher vibrational level, and the government elite trying to control all this.
Exactly. Exactly. Well, my gosh, we have kind of a tall order, don't we? I feel like some of the responsibility has been bestowed on us to gather this information, share our experiences and our knowledge, and get this word out there. Certainly through books, that's one way of doing it. Through the show, that's another way of doing it. What is your daily routine, Kevin? What is it that you do? I mean, do you do remote viewing all the time, or I mean, how often do you do? Because I bet my audience is out there thinking, well, so is Kevin remote viewing like constantly?
Okay, what I tend to do, I'll set a period of time during the day to totally relax, and when I do that, I communicate with ETs. I'll go and travel. It's a good question, actually, because I never really thought about it. When I wake up in the morning, I always relax and I communicate with ETs. I'll go and travel. Sometimes they'll communicate with me. And then before I go to bed, I will very often ask for information and ask them to show me it in a dream or give me some more information. Or I will think about a specific destination I would like to go and explore, and I do that. So it's really a part of my life, and I can even just be sat. I'll be sat by the pool, my wife will be sat there, and I'm just relaxing, and I can just sort of go inward and completely relax. And my wife will say many times, "Kevin, are you with me?" Go,
your wife's like, "Is he just ignoring me?" Or well, so really, what you're saying then is that you're openly inviting this channeling from the ETs and from the consciousness.
Yes,
That's really what you're saying.
Yeah, it's part of my life. It's part of who I am. So I'll give you a simple example. Last night, I went out with my dogs. It's pitch black, and there's a big street light there, and I'm walking on. I said, "I know you're here. Can you turn that street light off?" And it went, bump, it went off straight away. I said, "Thank you very much."
Gosh.
You know, that's the level of communication, really. But yeah, I mean, it's just fascinating, really. But we all need to know, share this knowledge, share this information.
Well, that's why I asked, because I'm like, is this something that you consciously do every day? And it sounds like you do.
I do, but unconsciously.
But consciously, but unconsciously.
Well, until you mentioned it, I realised I'm doing that, and I do that all day, and I do it many times. But I think now we're in a position where we can co-create a society for our children.
Exactly.
That we desire, society that we desire for our children, for our future generations.
Absolutely, and that's a point that I want to make today.
Co-create that society with our ET extended families. I know they're here to assist us. There's no need to fear them. They want to assist in our evolution. They will share their technologies with us. And we're in an ideal time now because our society is collapsing at the moment.
It really is.
So we will have to rebuild that society. And if we can co-create that society using thought and consciousness with the ETs who are already here amongst us,
exactly,
then what a society can we develop?
Exactly. Instead of feeding into all of this mass hysteria and all the stuff that's being fed to us, what we really need to do is tap into this positive energy, tap into the universal energy, the name of our book, and raise ourselves to that level of positive impact for Mother Nature, for the galaxy, and call upon our intergalactic families to help us do so, because tapping into this universal energy, honestly, I think is going to be one of the strongest keys to get us out of this predicament that we're in right now. And certainly that's something that we need to do, right, Edgar, is get ourselves out of this.
Which brings up a real good point. Musical notes energizes and can open and heal our DNA, because the different frequencies, as you start focusing on the different frequencies, we can heal our own body. And there was a doctor, his name was Dr. Royal Raymond Rife, that had discovered by using energy frequency that he could absolutely get rid of various diseases and ailments by using pure energy. So we as conscious beings, as we raise our vibrational levels up, we can also conquer death and pain and sickness.
Illness, right? And you and I are both certified in Reiki. You certainly practice it a lot more than I do, and that's something that we talk about in the book. We talk about using Reiki energy healing to do just that.
Exactly. And because pure energy can neither be destroyed nor created. We can alter it, but we can't destroy it. Hence, when we raise our vibrational levels up, we are expanding our energy to match other energies so we can walk through walls and so on and so forth. Because our thought waves are coming out through the top of or the crown of our head at an alarming rate, at the speed of thought. Is the speed of thought faster than the speed of light? It's possibility. Hence, that's how the intergalactics can get from one side of the universe to the other, by using the speed of thought.
Right, and that's certainly a topic I think for us to discuss in a future episode is, whether the speed of thought is faster than the speed of light. I tend to say yes, but I'd like to dive into that in a next episode. And then it's certainly the power of music. Being a music teacher and a pianist for over, I hate to even count, over 40 years. I can tell you for sure firsthand that the power of music absolutely works. And that's something that I am working diligently on, is promoting the positive healing of music and getting that out there. I think, there's so many topics for us to talk about in some future episodes that, it really taps into all of this. And what better time than in the middle of this pandemic than talking about doing something positive? I'm so tired of hearing all this negative stuff. I can't even watch TV anymore. I have to turn it off. But let's talk about stuff that's positive. Let's talk about ways that we can help our world ascend to that next level and gravitate towards, our intergalactic families, our extended families, and getting us out of this quandary that we're currently in. Would you agree?
Well, we have that opportunity now. And as I said earlier, that the ETs are here, they're ready, willing to assist. We just have to, I know that we tried to get contact with our government in the United Nations in February this year, but we needed a mandate protocol being implemented, and there wasn't one implemented. I know there are groups working on that. And there's an open invitation from the group of ETs that I work with to meet with our government representatives, their ambassadors, but they expressly need that mandate protocol in place, as you would with any ambassadors that you are meeting.
Right.
If the people are successful in working with our governments to achieve that, then the next step is just really a formal invitation to ask them to be. And our governments know they're here. They've been interacting with them for decades.
Oh, they know more.
So,
yeah, they know they're here.
It's new to them. They know they're here. They've been interacting with them. They know a lot about them. I believe they've reverse engineered a lot of their equipment and things that they've received. But it's an open invitation, and we'll have to wait and see. Our governments are very busy globally at the moment with all sorts of problems. So, but this isn't a problem. This is someone who can help and assist us, and I'm sure there's some bad ETs out there, but the ones that I have interacted with all my life, they're all benevolent and care about, well, a bit like Orton D, I'm part of their extended family, so they clearly care about me, and we've all got extended families, so they all care about us. So I'm very positive for the future, very excited for the future, and we can co-create that future.
We can co-create that. Guys, we have about 2 minutes left, so I'm going to give each of you a little bit to have a closing statement that you would like to end this show with. Edgar, I'm going to go to you first. What's your closing statement on this?
Raise your vibrational levels up through meditation, through soft music, because the head-banging music is very chaotic and very destructive to our crystalline structure of our bodies. And we need to bring our crystalline structures back to where they resonate like they used to resonate with nature, and then the sickness and the ills will go away.
Very well said. Kevin, what's your
I would
closing statement?
say in these difficult times, relax, open your mind, meditate, get close to nature. Nature continues as normal. You'll go and sit outside, you can watch the birds, the rabbits, the nature that's going on around you that we don't get time to see. Go and sit out there, relax, open your mind, meditate, and see if that opens the key to these higher levels of consciousness. They are there, we just have to be open-minded to do that. And I think the next best important thing is to buy our book.
Well, you know what, guys? That's a great way to end the statement there with our show. I'm Melisa Kennedy, and I am here to tell you that I would actively invite all of you out there to not only look the three of us up on social media, but also through the BMK Publishing website and also our social media. Reach out to us. If you have an experience or you have a question, we're here to help. That's what we're here for. This is our mission. Our book dives into the universal consciousness and quantum physics. We can get that available on Amazon, and it's also available on our website. And if you use WeBeam TV, then you can get an autographed copy. That does it for me here on the UFO Woman Show. I'm Melisa Kennedy.